91 years old, no blood pressure medication, no cholesterol medication, no diabetes, no chronic pain. And every single morning, I eat the same thing. Four foods that most people ignore or eat the wrong way. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what they are, and more importantly, why they work inside an aging body in a way science has already confirmed, but almost nobody explains clearly. Tell me in the comments, what state or country are you watching from? I want to know where my family here comes from. Let's start with chia, and I need you to forget everything you've heard about it because you were probably only taught half the story. Everyone talks about chia having omega-3. True, but what nobody explains is what that actually means inside the body of someone over 60. With aging, a process called chronic low-grade inflammation, the kind that doesn't hurt, that you can't feel, silently compromises joints, blood vessels, and cognitive function. The omega-3 in chia acts directly on that process. It's not a pretty nutrient on the label. It participates in the synthesis of compounds that the body itself uses to resolve inflammation. But there's something even less talked about. Chia has a rare ratio of soluble fiber that, when it comes into contact with water in the digestive tract, forms a gel. That gel slows down the rate at which glucose enters the bloodstream. For anyone with insulin resistance, which is common after age 50, even without a diabetes diagnosis, that's real protection at the cellular level, happening silently every morning. And there's a third point I consider the most underestimated of all. Chia is one of the few plant-based sources with a meaningful amount of tryptophan. Tryptophan is the precursor to serotonin. Serotonin isn't just about mood. It regulates intestinal rhythm, sleep, and the perception of satiety. When an older person's gut is functioning well, the absorption of other nutrients improves. Everything is connected. The way I consume it, 1 tablespoon in water, I let it hydrate for 10 minutes before eating anything else. Not mixed with fruit, not in a smoothie. Separate on an empty stomach. That way the gel acts in the gut before any other food arrives. Do you already use chia? Tell me in the comments whether you use it every day or just occasionally. I want to understand the habits of the people watching here. The second food is natural yogurt. And when I say natural, I'm not talking about yogurt with fruit, added sugar, or flavoring. I'm talking about yogurt with 2 ingredients, milk and lactic acid bacteria. That's it. What happens in the gut of an aging person is something medicine calls dysbiosis, an imbalance between beneficial and harmful bacteria. That imbalance doesn't stay confined to the gut. It directly affects the immune system because approximately 70% of the body's defense cells are located in intestinal tissue. When the microbiome is compromised, immunity drops. And when immunity drops in an older person, the risk of infection, inflammation, and cognitive decline increases. Fermented natural yogurt delivers live lactobacilli that colonize the gut and compete with harmful microorganisms. But there's an important detail that few healthcare professionals explain to their patients. For the lactobacilli to survive the acidity of the stomach and reach the intestine in sufficient numbers, yogurt should be consumed at the beginning of a meal. Never on a completely empty stomach and never after hot coffee. Excess heat and acid compromise the viability of the bacteria. Beyond that, natural yogurt contains high biological value protein, and protein for anyone over 60 is not a luxury, it's a necessity. From that age onward, the body begins losing muscle mass at an accelerated rate, a process called sarcopenia. Maintaining protein intake at breakfast slows that loss. Less muscle means more falls. More falls mean more fractures. Fractures, in many cases, lead to a point of no return. It's a chain reaction. And it starts with nutrition. Tell me in the comments, do you consume natural yogurt regularly, or do you have trouble finding the unsweetened kind where you live? The third food is cheese. And I know a lot of people will be surprised by this because for decades we were told to avoid cheese after a certain age because of the fat and sodium. I'm going to explain why that guidance was incomplete. Cheese, especially the more aged and fermented varieties, such as traditional fresh cheese, Kawalho cheese, or Parmesan in smaller amounts, contains vitamin K2, not K1, which you find in leafy greens. K2 specifically. This vitamin has a function that is almost never discussed outside of geriatric medicine. It directs calcium toward the bones and prevents it from depositing in the arteries. That's critical. One of the main causes of arterial stiffening in older people is not just cholesterol, it's vascular calcification. And K2 is one of the few nutrients that acts directly on that process in a protective way. Without it, the calcium you consume can end up in the wrong place. Beyond that, cheese provides bioavailable calcium, meaning calcium the body can actually absorb and use, along with phosphorus and protein. That combination is more effective for bone health than an isolated calcium supplement, which without the right cofactors has compromised absorption. Quantity matters. It's not a block of cheese. It's a moderate slice, preferably a minimally processed variety. Industrially processed cheese with stabilizers and preservatives doesn't have the same nutritional profile. Natural fermentation is what makes the difference. Where you live greatly influences your access to artisan cheeses. Tell me in the comments, are you from the South, the Midwest, the Northeast? Every region has its own cheeses, and I'm curious to know where the people watching are coming from. The fourth food is oats, and I saved it for last because it's the food that suffers the most from misinformation in recent years, especially with the rise of low-carb diets. Let me be direct. Oats are not the enemy of your metabolism. For people over 60 who don't have celiac disease or a specific intolerance, rolled oats are one of the most complete foods that exist for cardiovascular and intestinal health. The component that makes oats unique is beta-glucan, a soluble fiber that has been extensively studied and has robust evidence for reducing LDL cholesterol. It works in the intestine by forming a viscous substance that binds to cholesterol-rich bile acids and eliminates them through the digestive tract before they can be reabsorbed. The liver, to replenish those bile acids, draws from circulating cholesterol. The result is a reduction in blood levels, without medication, without side effects. But there's something beyond cholesterol that few people talk about. The beta-glucan in oats feeds the beneficial bacteria in the gut. It acts as a prebiotic, meaning it's not a bacterium itself, but it feeds the bacteria you're introducing into the gut through the yogurt. These two foods together form a combination that science calls a synbiotic, probiotic plus prebiotic at the same time. That amplifies the effect of both. Oats also contain avenanthramides, antioxidant compounds exclusive to oats that have anti-inflammatory action on the endothelium, which is the inner lining of blood vessels. For long-term cardiovascular health, that matters. I eat rolled oats, no sugar, no honey, no mashed banana, with the yogurt. And the chia was already hydrated beforehand. Simple, consistent, every day. So those are the four: chia, natural yogurt, cheese, and oats. They are not miracle foods. No food is. What makes them powerful is consistency. Eating them every morning, the right way, for years. The human body responds over time. Health is not an event, it's an accumulation. 91 years old, no list of medications. With the energy to record this video, to walk, to sleep well. It's not genetics, it's habit. And habit starts with one small decision, repeated every day. Before you go, do me a favor. Write in the comments which city you're watching from. I read every comment. I want to get to know every person in my family here. And if this content made sense to you, share it with someone you love who needs to hear it. Because information that reaches you early changes everything.